don't think people understand what the taiga really is. And honestly, I didn't either. You hear forest, and you imagine something familiar. Trees, paths, maybe getting lost for a few hours. But the taiga isn't like that. It's not just bigger. It's emptier, colder, quieter in a way that doesn't feel natural. And that's the first thing I want to say before anything else. People don't just get lost there. At least, not in the way you think. I've heard a few stories over the years from different people, different places, but the details are always similar, too similar. And that's what bothers me, because it's not just something scary happened, it's patterns, things repeating, the same mistakes, the same moments where everything could have gone differently and didn't. So yeah, these aren't just random horror stories. And I'm not even sure I'd call them stories. They're more like situations. Things that happen when you stay too long in a place that doesn't really care if you make it out. And the worst part, most of the time, people think they're fine right up until the moment they're not. This first one, I heard from a guy who used to do winter trips out there. Not a beginner. Not someone who just wandered in without knowing what he was doing. He knew the routes, knew how to track time, knew exactly when to turn back. And that's why this part bothered me. He said the day felt normal. Cold, yeah, but manageable. Clear sky, good visibility. The kind of conditions where nothing should go wrong. He was keeping track of time, watching the sun, planning when to head back, everything under control. And then it got dark. Too fast. Not gradually. Not the way it's supposed to. Just suddenly. Like someone lowered the light. He checked his watch. Still early. Hours before sunset. And that's when he said it stopped making sense. Because in places like that, you rely on timing, on daylight, on predictability. And if that goes, you're already in trouble. He told me he stood there for a second, just trying to process it, trying to explain it. Clouds, weather shift, anything. But the sky didn't change. No, only the light did. And yeah, that's when I would have turned back. But he didn't. Because at that moment, he still thought he understood what was happening. He didn't panic. Not yet. He just adjusted. That's what experienced people do. Something feels off. You don't overreact. You adapt. He changed direction slightly, started heading back. Or at least where he thought back was. And then he saw it. A cabin. My chest tightened when he told me this, because finding shelter out there should be a good thing. But not like that. Not that soon. He said it was too close. He hadn't gone that far in. There shouldn't have been anything there. At least, nothing on the route he knew. Still, he walked toward it. Because cold changes your priorities. Fast. The cabin looked old, wooden, half buried in snow. No smoke, no light. Just there. He stopped a few meters away, looking at it, trying to remember if he had seen anything like it on a map. He hadn't. And that's when he said something that stuck with me. In the taiga, if you find something you didn't expect, it's already a problem. He should have walked away, kept moving, but he didn't. Because the cold was getting worse. And the idea of shelter, even the wrong kind, starts to feel like the only option. He opened opened the door slowly, careful, because in a place like that, you don't just walk into someone else's shelter. You check first. You listen. You make sure. But there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just stillness. So he stepped inside. And that's when it got worse. Because it was warm. Not closed space. Warm. Not out of the wind. Warm. Actual heat. Like it had been heated recently. My chest tightened when he told me that. Because in the middle of nowhere, in freezing conditions, that doesn't just happen. He looked around. Simple interior, old wood, a table, a bed. Nothing special. But nothing abandoned either. No dust. No signs of decay. Like it was being used recently. He checked the stove. Cold. No fire. No ash. Nothing that explained the warmth. And that's the part I can't get past. Because warmth means someone was there. Recently. Very recently. But there was no one inside. No sound. No movement. Nothing. And in places like that, that's not comforting. That's worse. Because it means one of two things. Either someone just left, or they never needed to be seen in the first place. He didn't stay inside right away. Not after that. He stepped back out, just to check something. Because this is the part people don't think about. In the snow, you can always see the truth. Snow doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what happened, where someone came from, where they went. So he walked around the cabin, slow, careful, looking for tracks. My chest tightened when he told me this part, because what he expected was simple. One set of footprints, maybe two. Something that explains the warmth, explains the place. But there was only one, leading to the cabin, from the trees, deep snow, and clear, fresh. And they didn't leave. He followed them around the side, back, front again. Same thing. They stopped at the door, no exit, no second set, nothing going away. He checked his own, made sure he wasn't mixing them up. But no, these were different, older than his, but still, recent. That's the part that doesn't make sense. Because if someone went in, they have to come out. That's how it works. Unless they didn't. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Whatever made those tracks was still inside when he walked in. And this is the part people always question. Why didn't he just leave? I asked the same thing. But the truth is, when you're out there, cold changes how you think. Fast. You stop making perfect decisions. You start making necessary ones. He stood outside for a minute, looking at the door, looking at the tracks, trying to convince himself it was explainable. Maybe the snow covered the exit. Maybe he missed something. Maybe someone used a different route. Anything. Something that makes sense. But the cold kept getting worse. Hands stiff. Breathing heavier. That kind of cold that doesn't wait for you to figure things out. So he went back inside, closed the door, and stayed. My chest tightened when he told me that. Because at that point, he already knew something was wrong. But he chose the cabin anyway, and I get it. Out there. You don't choose the safest option. You choose the one that keeps you alive for the next hour. But sometimes, that choice is exactly what puts you in the wrong place at the worst time. He tried to settle in, not sleep, just sit, warm up, wait it out. That's usually the right call. Don't move in the dark. Don't waste energy. Just stay alive until morning. At least, that's what he told himself. The cabin stayed quiet for a while. Too quiet. No wind. No creaking. Nothing from the outside. And that's not normal either. Even in deep taiga, you hear something. Branches, snow shifting, wind across the trees. Something. He sat there, listening, trying to get used to it, trying to convince himself it was fine. Then, a sound. Outside. Soft. A step, and my chest tightened when he told me that. Because footsteps in snow aren't subtle. They're heavy, crunching, clear. And this one was close. Right outside the cabin. He didn't move, didn't breathe louder, just listened. Then another step. Same spot, same distance. Not circling, not leaving. Just there. Like something was standing outside the door, shifting its weight. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Whatever made those tracks didn't leave. It was still there. Just on the other side of the door. He didn't go to the door. Didn't check. Didn't call out. Because at that point, there was nothing good on the other side. He just sat there, listening, trying to understand the pattern. Step, pause, step. Always the same spot, right outside. And then it stopped, completely. No movement, no sound, just silence again. My chest tightened when he told me that. Because silence, after movement, is worse than the movement itself. It means something changed. Then, a sound. Not from the snow, from the door, the handle. A slow shift, metal against wood, not forced, not shaken, just tested. Like something checking if it would open. He didn't move, didn't even look at it directly, just kept his eyes on the floor. Because sometimes not reacting is the only control you have left. The handle moved again, slightly more this time, then stopped. No attempt to break in, no force, nothing aggressive. And that's the part that makes it worse. Because that means whatever was outside wasn't trying to get in. It was checking if it needed to. He didn't open the door, didn't respond, just stayed still, waiting, listening. Because at that point, any reaction felt like the wrong one. The handle didn't move again. No more sound from the door. No steps outside. Just silence. Heavy. Flat. The kind that presses on you. He waited a few minutes. Maybe longer. Just to be sure. Then he looked down at the floor near the entrance. My chest tightened when he told me this part because he said he didn't hear anything. No door opening. No movement. Nothing. And yet, there they were. Footprints. Wet. Dark against the wood. Leading away from the door. Into the cabin. One step. Then another. Clear. Fresh. Like someone had just walked in. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared at them. Because there was no sound. No presence. Nothing else. Just the tracks. Continuing deeper inside. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Whatever had been outside didn't come through the door. It was already inside with him. He didn't follow them. Not right away. He just sat there, staring at the footprints, because that's the point where your brain kind of breaks. You stop trying to explain. You just observe. One step, then another, leading away from the door, across the floor, toward the back of the cabin. My chest tightened when he told me that, because cabins like that don't have much space. There's nowhere to go deeper. But the tracks kept going, past the table, past the bed, toward the back wall. He stood up slowly, not because he wanted to, but because staying still didn't feel like an option anymore. He moved carefully, following at a distance, watching each step. And that's when it got worse. The tracks didn't stop at the wall. They kept going, right up to it. Then they ended. No turn, no shift, no exit. Just gone. Like whatever made them walked into the wall. My chest tightened because there was nothing behind it. No door, no opening, just solid wood. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Whatever was inside the cabin didn't need a way out. He didn't touch the wall, didn't knock, didn't check behind it. Because at that point, he already understood. This wasn't something physical, not in the way it should be. He stepped back slowly, eyes still locked on where the footprints ended. Because even though nothing moved, something felt different. The space changed, subtle, but enough. Like the cabin wasn't empty anymore. My chest tightened when he told me that. Because that's the moment everything flips. When you stop looking for something and start feeling it. He turned slightly, scanning the room. Table, bed, door. Nothing out of place. Everything exactly where it was before. But the feeling stayed, stronger now, closer. Like something was in the room with him. And it didn't need to move to be there. He said he didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, but he knew. You know that feeling, when your body reacts before your mind does. That instinct that says, you're not alone. And in that moment, something became undeniable. It didn't come into the cabin. It had always been there, waiting for him to realize it. He didn't move, didn't even shift his weight. Because once that feeling hits, you don't want to give anything away. You don't want to confirm anything. You just stay still. The cabin was silent, completely. Then something changed. Not a sound at first, more like a rhythm, subtle, barely there. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said he didn't notice it right away. It took a few seconds, and then it clicked. Breathing, slow, deep, but not his, out of sync, coming from somewhere in the room. He didn't turn, didn't try to locate it, because the second you do that, you make it real. And part of him still hoped it wasn't, but it was there. Inhale, pause, exhale, steady, controlled, too calm, like whatever was making that sound wasn't afraid, wasn't stressed, just present. And then it changed, slightly, matching him, adjusting. His breathing sped up, and it followed. My chest tightened, because that means one thing. It wasn't just there, it was aware. And in that moment, something became undeniable. It didn't need to see him. It could hear him, feel him. And now, it was learning how he worked. He tried to control his breathing, slow it down, make it steady. Because if it was matching him, maybe he could control it. For a few seconds, it worked. Inhale, exhale, calm. But then he stopped, just to test it. Held his breath, completely still, and that's when it happened. A movement, not loud, not sudden, just chest tightened when he told me that, because he said it came from somewhere behind him. A shift, like weight transferring. A step. He didn't turn, didn't react, just stood there, not breathing, waiting. Then, another movement, closer this time, and he realized something immediately. It wasn't moving when he moved. It was moving when he didn't. That's what made it worse, because it meant every time he tried to stay still, it got closer. He forced himself to breathe again, quick, uneven, and the movement stopped instantly, like it paused with him, like it respected the pattern. My chest tightened, because now he understood the rule. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Stillness wasn't safe. It was what brought it closer. He didn't stop after that, not even for a second. He started moving immediately, slow at first, then faster. Not running, just constant movement. Because now he knew the rule. As long as he moved, it didn't. My chest tightened when he told me that, because that's not something you can keep up forever. He walked around the cabin, back and forth, circles, anything to stay in motion. Didn't sit, didn't lean, didn't pause, just kept going. The breathing stayed, still there, still in the room. But it didn't get closer, didn't shift, didn't change position, like it was locked in place as long as he wasn't. Time passed. He didn't know how long. Minutes, maybe longer. But eventually, his body started to give in. Legs heavy, breathing uneven, movement slower. And that's the problem. Because the moment he slowed down, just slightly, the sound came back. A shift, closer. My chest had tightened, because now it didn't need him to stop completely, just to slow down. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He couldn't keep moving forever. And whatever was in that cabin only needed him to stop for a second. He tried to push through it, ignore the fatigue, ignore the cold, just keep moving. Because at that point, movement wasn't a choice. It was survival. But the body has limits, and his started to show. His steps got heavier, slower, not by much, but enough. And every time it happened, it reacted. A step, closer. My chest tightened when he told me that, because it wasn't random anymore. It was measuring him, waiting for those moments, those small drops in speed, those slight hesitations, and using them. He sped up again, forced himself forward, and it stopped. Perfect. Like it respected the rule, like it understood the balance. Then, again, a second of slower movement, another step, closer. Now, he could feel it, not hear, feel that presence right behind him, matching his space. Not touching, but close enough. My chest tightened, because that's the worst place it can be. Right there, where you know something is standing, but you don't want to turn around. And in that moment, something became undeniable. It wasn't chasing him. It was closing the distance piece by piece. Every time he couldn't keep up, he didn't look back, didn't check how close it was, because at that point, knowing wouldn't help. He just needed to get out. So he turned toward the door, or at least where the door should have been, and kept moving, fast as he could, ignoring everything else. My chest tightened when he told me this part, because he said he saw the wall, not the door. He stopped, just for a second, trying to understand what he was looking at, because he had walked past that door multiple times. Same position, same place. There's no way it just disappears. He stepped closer, ran his hand along the wood, solid. No handle, no frame, nothing. Just a wall. He turned slightly, looking around, and that's when it got worse. The cabin felt different, smaller, tighter, like the space had shifted, and then behind him, a step, closer than before. My chest tightened, because now he didn't just need to keep moving. He needed a way out. And in that moment, something became undeniable. The cabin wasn't just holding him inside. It was removing the only way he could leave. He didn't panic, not outwardly, but that's the moment where most people would. Because now, there was no door, no exit, just walls and whatever was behind him. So he kept moving, turned slightly, and saw the window, small, frosted at the edges, but still something. My chest tightened when he told me this part, because windows out there aren't for comfort. They're for light, for checking outside, for knowing if you're still somewhere real. He moved toward it, careful, trying not to slow down too much, because every second mattered now. He reached it, looked out, and froze, because the forest outside wasn't the same, not the way it should be. The trees looked off, too still, too close, like they were standing in the wrong places. And then he saw it. Someone, standing in the snow a few meters away, facing the cabin. My chest tightened, because that's impossible. No tracks, no movement, nothing leading up to that. And yet, it was there, completely still, watching. Then, very slowly, it moved, not toward the cabin, not away. It just shifted. And in that moment, something became undeniable. Whatever was inside with him was also outside, watching him. He didn't step back, didn't move away from the window. He just stood there, staring, because something about that figure felt familiar, not safe, not normal, just familiar. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said it wasn't the face. He couldn't see that clearly. It was the position, the way it stood, slightly off balance. Weight shifted to one side, the same way he stands when he's tired, without thinking about it. Then it moved, just a small adjustment, and he felt it, inside. His body shifted the same way, uncontrolled, unwanted, perfectly matched. My chest tightened instantly, because that means one thing. It wasn't copying him, it was syncing with him. Then it took a step in the snow, slow, calm, and inside the cabin, his body moved. A fraction of a second later, same step, same direction. My chest tightened, because now it wasn't just outside. It wasn't just watching, it was leading. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He wasn't trying to escape anymore. He was being aligned with something that was already outside in his place. He tried to stop, really tried, locked his legs, focused, forced himself not to move. But it didn't matter. The figure outside shifted again, just slightly to the side, and his body followed. My chest tightened when he told me that, because he said it didn't feel like force, not like something pushing him. It felt natural, like the movement made sense, like it was his decision. even though it wasn't. He took another step, closer to the wall, the one where the footprints had ended, the one with no door, no opening, nothing. The figure outside mirrored the angle, perfectly aligned. Then it stopped, and so did he. Standing right in front of the wall, my chest tightened, because now he didn't need to turn around to know what was behind him. It was close, too close. That same presence, that same breathing, right there. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He wasn't being pushed into the wall. He was being positioned in the exact place something else had already used. He didn't touch it at first, just stood there, close enough to feel the cold from it, but not like normal wood, not like something solid, different. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said the air near it felt thinner, like standing near an open space, even though nothing was there. He slowly raised his hand, not all the way, just enough to feel it. And that's when it got worse, because he didn't feel resistance, not immediately. His fingers touched the surface, but it didn't feel solid. It felt delayed, like there was something behind it, but not where it should be. My chest tightened, because that's not how walls work. He pulled his hand back instantly. Didn't try again. Didn't need to, because now he understood what the footprints meant. They didn't stop at the wall. They went through it. And in that moment, something became undeniable. That wasn't the end of the cabin. It was something else. Something that only looked like a wall until you got close enough to realize it wasn't one. He stepped back, just a little, enough to break the alignment, enough to feel like he still had control. But the moment he did, the figure outside moved again, and his body responded. My chest tightened when he told me that, because this time it wasn't subtle. It turned slightly, facing a different angle, and he felt his own body adjust with it, like something was correcting him, repositioning him. He tried to resist, tried to step away from the wall, but his movement felt wrong, delayed, weak, like he was moving after something else already decided. Then the figure outside took a step forward, closer to the cabin, and inside he moved too, toward the wall. My chest tightened, because now it wasn't just guiding him, it was leading him somewhere specific, right there. That exact spot where the footprints ended, where the wall wasn't solid. He stopped again, forced it, held his position, and for a second, everything froze. Then the breathing behind him got closer, right at his back. And in that moment, something became undeniable. I didn't need to push him. I just needed him to stop resisting long enough to step through. He didn't move, not forward, not back, just held it. Because at that point, any movement felt like the wrong one. The air behind him changed. He could feel it. Not cold, not warm, just presence right at his back, close enough that if he moved, he'd touch it. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said he could hear it clearly now, the breathing, not matching his, not adjusting anymore, just steady, right behind his shoulder. Then something shifted, not a step, not a sound, just closer, like it leaned in. And for a second, he felt it, not physically, But in that way, your body reacts before your mind does. That instinct, that warning that something is too close. He didn't turn, didn't react, because he already knew. If he did, that would be it. Then the figure outside moved again, closer to the cabin, closer to the window, and his body leaned forward toward the wall. My chest tightened, because now he wasn't choosing anymore. And in that moment, something became undeniable. It didn't need to grab him. It had already positioned him exactly where it needed, with something behind him and nowhere else to go but through. He tried to stop. He really did. Locked his legs, focused, told himself, don't move. But his body didn't listen. It leaned forward just slightly, and his hand touched the wall again. This time, it didn't feel delayed. It felt open. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said his fingers didn't press against wood as they went through. Not fully, just enough to know there was space on the other side. Cold space, empty space. His breathing broke, fast, uneven, but it didn't matter, because now his body followed, one step, uncontrolled, forward, into it. My chest tightened, because that's the moment you don't come back from. He said it didn't feel like walking through something. It felt like losing resistance, like stepping into a place that wasn't meant to be there. And behind him, that breathing stopped completely. And in that moment, something became undeniable. It didn't need him anymore on this side of the wall. He expected darkness, cold, nothing. But that's not what he got. He stumbled forward, caught himself, and looked up. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said he was still in a cabin. Same size, same layout, table, bed, door, everything. Exactly the same. But something was off, not obvious, not at first, just wrong. The air felt different, heavier, colder in a way that didn't match the space. He turned slightly, looking around, trying to find something that proved he was still where he started. Then he saw it. Footprints on the floor, leading away from the wall. My chest tightened, because those weren't his. They were already there, waiting, just like before. Only this time, they led toward the door. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He hadn't escaped the cabin. He had just entered the version that something else walks out from. He didn't move right away, just stood there, trying to process it, because now nothing made sense in a way he could fix. Same cabin, same layout, but not the same place. The air felt occupied, like he wasn't the first one there. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said the silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt watched. Then he heard it. A step, not behind him, not outside, inside the room, slow, careful, like someone testing the floor. He didn't turn, didn't react, just listened, because at that point, he already knew. Another step, closer, then his own voice. Stay calm. My chest tightened instantly, because he didn't say that. He only thought it. And it said it first. Then he heard movement near the door. The handle shifted, opened, slow. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He wasn't alone in that cabin. He had just taken the place of whoever was already inside before him. He didn't go to the door, didn't try to stop it, Because at that point, he understood what that would mean. The handle turned, slow, controlled, like someone who knew exactly how it worked. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, but not like before. Not survival cold, something emptier. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said he could see it now, from the side, not fully, just enough. A shape, his shape, same height, same clothes, same movement, stepping toward the door, calm, natural, like it had always been his place to leave. He tried to speak, tried to say something, anything, but nothing came out. No sound, no control, because it didn't matter anymore. I didn't look back. I didn't hesitate. Just stepped outside, into the snow, and disappeared into the trees. My chest tightened, because now he knew exactly what happened. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He didn't go through the wall to escape. He went through so something else could walk out as him. He didn't follow. He couldn't, even if he wanted to, because something in him already knew that part was over. He just stood there, inside the cabin, looking at the open door, cold air moving through the room. Then, slowly, he walked closer, careful, like every step still mattered. He reached the doorway, looked outside. My chest tightened when he told me this, because the snow tells the truth, always. And there they were, tracks, fresh, clear, leading away from the cabin, into the trees. One set, perfect, same size, same spacing, his. He looked down at his own feet, then back at the tracks, same, exactly the same. My chest tightened, because that means whatever left that cabin didn't just look like him. It moved like him, perfectly. No hesitation, no difference, just him, walking away. And in that moment, something became undeniable. If anyone found those tracks, they wouldn't think anything was wrong, because everything about them looked exactly right. He looked down again, at his own feet, at the floor, then back at the snow outside. My chest tightened when he told me this, because that's when it finally broke. He stepped forward, careful, testing it, expecting to see something, anything, a mark, a print. But there was nothing, no tracks, no imprint in the snow, nothing showing he had moved at all. He took another step, same thing, no sound, no pressure, no trace. My chest tightened, because that's not how snow works. Out there, you always leave something behind. Even the smallest step leaves a mark, but not for him. He turned slightly, looked behind. Inside the cabin, same. No footprints, no sign he had ever moved. Like he wasn't affecting the space anymore. Like he wasn't part of it. And in that moment, something became undeniable. The tracks outside belonged to something real, something that could leave. And whatever he was now couldn't. He stayed there for a second, half inside, half outside, like the line still meant something, like he could still choose. My chest tightened when he told me this, because that's always the moment people think they can fix it. Step out, walk away, leave, like nothing happened. But it doesn't work like that, not anymore. The door moved, slow, heavy, behind him. He didn't touch it, didn't even turn, but he heard it, felt it, closing, controlled, final. He stepped forward, tried to get out, one step, but his body didn't respond. Not fully. Not the way it should. And by the time he reacted, the door was already shut. The sound echoed through the cabin, and too loud, too final. My chest tightened, because now there was no outside. Not for him. He turned slowly, looked at the door. Handle still. Locked. From the other side. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He wasn't inside anymore. Not really. He was just the thing that stays after something else leaves. He didn't move right away, just stood there, facing the closed door. Because at that point, what would moving even change? Then, something pulled his attention back to the window. Not a sound, not a voice, just instinct. My chest tightened when he told me this, because he said he didn't want to look, but he did anyway, slowly, carefully. And that's when he saw it, himself, walking through the trees, away from the cabin. Same clothes, same posture, same steady pace, like nothing had happened, like he had never stopped. My chest tightened, because it didn't hesitate, didn't look back, didn't slow down, just kept going, further, deeper, until the trees started to cover him. And then it stopped, turned slightly, not fully, just enough, like it was checking something, like it knew he was watching. Then it continued, gone. My chest tightened, because that wasn't a reflection, that wasn't confusion, that was something real, out there, moving on as him. And in that moment, something became undeniable. He didn't lose his way in the taiga. He lost his place in the world outside it. He never explained how long he stayed there. That part he avoids, says it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't. Because time out there doesn't feel the same anyway. My chest tightens every time I think about it. Because the story doesn't end with him getting out. It ends with him understanding something. Something simple. Something final. The taiga doesn't chase you. It doesn't hunt you. It doesn't need to. It just waits. Waits until you're tired, cold, just uncertain enough to make one wrong choice. A path, a cabin, a voice, something that feels like the right decision at the time. And then it takes that moment and builds everything around it. So yeah, if you ever find yourself out there and something doesn't make sense, don't try to figure it out. Don't stay. Don't trust what looks like help. Because once you're deep enough, it's not about finding your way back anymore. It's about whether something else has already found its way out as you. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you probably understand why people who've been out there don't talk about it the same way anymore. And I'm actually curious, have you ever experienced something like that? Not just fear, but that feeling where something doesn't make sense and you can't explain why. Maybe in the woods, maybe somewhere isolated. Drop it in the comments. I read all of them. And if you're into these kinds of stories, quiet, realistic, the kind that feels just a little too possible, make sure you subscribe, because I've got more coming, and they only get worse. See you in the next one.